gentlemen, good evening once again. I hope everyone's enjoying the dinner and the company. It is my honor to introduce Mr. Mario Diaz-Cruz III, Chairman Emeritus and Chair of the Social Responsibility Committee on the Chamber.
Thank you. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, good evening. As a nonprofit organization based in New York, the Spain-U.S. Chamber of Commerce is sensitive to the needs of the community to which we belong. For this reason, and since 2010, a portion of the proceeds of our annual gala dinner goes to funding social and educational projects in New York City. As the chair of the Social Responsibility Committee of the Chamber, I am pleased to announce that the recipient of this year's contribution is New York Cares, the city's largest volunteer organization whose mission is to meet pressing community needs by mobilizing caring New Yorkers in volunteer services. New York Care was founded by a group of friends in 1987 who wanted to take action against social issues in New York City. Today, the organization engages 43,000 volunteers in service each year, helping 450,000 New Yorkers in need. The organization works with 990 community agencies This paper is too tight. Called project planners to diagnose their needs for volunteers. It plans and manages 1,000 volunteer projects each month. As you all know, Hurricane Sandy hit New York City last month. The devastation caused by the storm is of unprecedented proportions, ranking among the worst natural disasters in our nation's history in terms of loss of life, property damage, and economic impact. This city has not seen damage like this in a generation. As New York City's lead agency for mobilizing volunteers in response to disasters, New York Cares has been working around the clock to bring post-hurricane Sandy aid where it is needed most. New York Care has already deployed 10,000 volunteers on projects involving activities like distributing supplies, canvassing and assessing needs, restoring vital services, and mucking out homes in the hardest hit areas. These are just a few examples of the way their volunteers are out in force around the city, helping those affected by Sandy. Accepting the donation of $10,000 on behalf of New York Cares, it is my distinct pleasure to introduce Ms. Joyce Frost, a member of the Board of Directors of that organization. Joyce? Joyce, there's a big check coming.
I know, I heard it.
As soon as I get it, it's yours.
Thank you so much. I just want to say thank you to everyone for supporting us. Here it comes. Okay, we got a little photo op. For supporting us tonight. As many of you may recognize, one of our signature events is the Coat Drive. We have that shivering Statue of Liberty, which is what most people recognize us for. But it's really our volunteer activities that really distinguish us from many other agencies in the city. And Hurricane Sandy, as devastating it was, this was our time. From day one, we had people on the ground, volunteers, helping those in need. So I really, really, really appreciate from not only myself, but the entire board of directors and staff of New York Cares for this very, very generous donation. Now it's a photo op.
All set? There's a real one.
There's a real one? Okay. All right, there's a lot of banks here, so who's going to cash this for me tonight?
I would now like to welcome Mr. Carlos Pujol, President of the Spain-U.S. Chamber of Commerce.
Thank you very much. Good evening, ladies, gentlemen, authorities. It is my role to start what will be the true and proper award ceremony, but we have a couple of items to deal with, which is my role to do. By the way, it's great to be able to address you after such an excellent dinner. Well, one of the things that are very important when preparing these events, as we honor every year the business leaders, is thanking our supporters, thanking our sponsors, because without them, these events wouldn't be possible. So if you allow me, I'm going to read the names of those organizations, those companies who have been so generous to support the event this year. Starting by Citigroup, Sovereign Santander, Telefonica, Baker & McKenzie, Dorsey & Whitney, Goya Foods, Hunton & Williams, Iberia, K&L Gates, Pfizer, and Sabadell. It's great, yeah, please. Give yourselves a big round of applause. As I said, we do thank you for your generous support all these years. And now it is my role to introduce someone to you who is a friend of Spain by now, somebody who's very active in promoting the economic exchange between Spain and the U.S., and somebody who we are now proud and grateful to call a friend of the Spain-U.S. Chamber of Commerce. Ladies and gentlemen, join me in welcoming you to the stage, Honorable Alan Solomon, U.S. Ambassador to Spain. Thank you very much.
Gracias. Buenas noches. Frequently, when I'm asked to address audiences in Spain, I begin as follows. Lo siento que no puedo hablar con ustedes en español. Cuando llegué en España, no hablé una palabra de español, pero estoy estudiando, estoy trabajando duro, y ahora mi español es un poco mejor que antes, pero es todavía muy oxidado, y por lo tanto voy a hablar en inglés. And it always is an applause line. But thank you very much. I want to thank the Spain-U.S. Chamber of Commerce, Chairman Xavier Ruiz, the President Carlos Pujol, the Chair Emeritus Mario Diaz-Cruz, the Executive Director Gemma Cortijo, for inviting me to participate once again. It's a great honor for me to join the Consul General of Spain, Juan Ramon Martinez Salazar, the past honoree and Vice President of the Spain-U.S. Chamber, my good friend Petra Mateus. Of course, this year's 2012 Business Leader of the Year, Isidro Fainé, and so many friends and colleagues and distinguished guests. This is actually my 4th annual gala. The very first one that I attended was in December of 2009. I was not yet confirmed by the United States Senate, and so I was not yet the U.S. ambassador. I had to keep a very low profile. I had to keep the photographers at bay. But that's not the case any longer, so for those of you who are taking pictures, feel free. As I finish my 3rd year as the United States ambassador to Spain, I've been reflecting on some of the things that have been unexpected and surprising about this experience. The first is what a wonderful country I was sent to, and how lucky I am to have been posted to Spain. I remember when I first arrived, seeing, or at least being struck by what a great success story I think this country is. As I learned about its history, I was here actually, I was in Spain in 1970 and 71, as I studied its history and understood the difficulties that it went through in what was a brutal civil war and a long period of dictatorship. I couldn't help but be impressed with how amazing was Spain's success in the 30-odd years in building a vibrant democracy and a prosperous economy. And my wife and I have been so delighted with the warmth and the hospitality and the generosity of the Spanish people. It has been truly a delight, and I think as anyone who knows us appreciates, we have become not only friends of Spain, but lovers of Spain. I've also been struck by the fact that Spain has a much better story to tell than what is actually told, especially in this country. And so I applaud the work of the U.S.-Spain Chamber in its efforts to strengthen the brand of Spain in the United States and around the world, but especially here. I was certainly struck by what a smart decision the Chamber made when it hired Gemma Cortijo, whose expertise is in managing an important Spanish brand and marketing. And so I think you made a very wise choice. But I hope that the Chamber, I think the Chamber does understand the importance of communicating to audiences in the United States a much better story than audiences typically hear about what is happening. The second thing that has surprised me or was unexpected is how much time and attention that I have spent and we have spent at the U.S. Embassy on our economic ties and the economic relationship between the United States and Spain. Secretary of State Hillary Clinton gave a speech in October of 2011 before the Economic Club of New York, in which she talked about something that she described as economic statecraft, which is putting economic policy at the forefront of our foreign policy. The Secretary observed in that speech, and more recently in a speech she gave just a couple of weeks ago at the Brookings Institute, that we no longer measure the influence of nations by the size of their armies. We measure the influence of nations by the size of their economies. Nobody is particularly impressed or concerned about the size of Brazil's army, for example. But certainly we're all impressed by the size of its growing economy. And so the Secretary charged U.S. diplomats around the world with putting economic policy and business concerns at the center of our work for two reasons. One is because our diplomacy, without economic prosperity at home, America will not be able to live up to the expectations the world has for our global leadership, and because our diplomacy can do very good things, both for our domestic economy and for the economies of our host nations. And especially at a time of such economic challenge to both of our countries, the work that we do in promoting American businesses that are doing business in Spain, in promoting a robust trade relationship between the United States and Spain, and supporting Spanish companies who are investing in the United States and who are creating jobs for American workers, who are buying American products, who are paying American taxes, is something that the United States Embassy is very concerned about promoting and supporting. And we applaud the work of the Chamber in being partners in this same effort. Just a couple of weeks ago, I spoke at the Chamber's U.S. Hispanic Business Forum in Barcelona, which brought together folks interested in the economic importance of the Hispanic population in the United States and the importance of encouraging investment by Spanish firms, and especially small and medium-sized Spanish firms in the United States. And the third thing that has surprised, or at least impressed me unexpectedly, is how seriously Spanish businesses take their responsibility to the greater society, and how important it is to Spanish businesses to be good corporate citizens. We call this corporate social responsibility, but I think it is something that truly distinguishes the business community in Spain. There is no better example of good corporate citizenship and good corporate leadership than tonight's honoree, Isidro Fainé. I remember my very first meeting with the chairman of CaixaBank, and I was interested in learning more about the business, but the chairman was more interested in explaining to me the social mission of the bank and the foundation. And it was very clear to me that he was as proud of his business success and of the business success of the bank, but he was equally proud of the bank's impact on social needs in his country. As I have traveled around the country, I have been enormously impressed by the specific examples of the impact of CaixaBank and its foundation, from programs and exhibitions at La Caixa Forum to a community center that I visited in Sevilla for the mothers and young children of the Roma community there, to the support that the foundation provides for scholarships for Spanish graduate students to study in some of the greatest universities in the world, about half of whom study in some of the great universities in the United States. So it is a particular honor for me to join all of you tonight to honor one of Spain's great business leaders and one of Spain's great leaders, Isidro Fainé. And I thank you all for the opportunity to join you this evening in celebrating the work of the Spain-U.S. Chamber of Commerce and honoring this year's Business Leader of the Year. Thank you very much.
I would like to once again request the presence of Mr. Xavier Ruiz.
Good evening again. Ambassador Solomon is a true friend of the Chamber, and he's always been very supportive of us. The only thing I don't like about Ambassador Solomon, which is he always precedes my speech, which, of course, his speech is always very inspiring, and which makes my speeches very dull and boring, but I will try to do my best. I was about to move on to I think the most ceremonial and enjoyable part of the evening. But let me just use this a minute to thank our executive team. The program will continue, and you'll be suffering me for a little while, and then there will be some videos and the speech of our honoree, but we will not have the chance to thank the great mind behind this event, and that is Gema Cortijo. So I would like Gema to please stand up so we can applaud and know who she is. So, I said stand up, please. Thank you. So thank you. And before, when I addressed the audience, I sort of realized the audience had not warmed up, and now we had some libations here. So I would also request the audience to acknowledge or recognize my fellow board members, and I wasn't really explicit enough before, but this is the work of the work of the chamber. The chamber has a very nice board of directors, and half of them or more are here with us tonight. So if you do not mind, could you, those members of the board, could you please stand up for a second, and we'll recognize you and applaud you, please. Could some of you please can you stand up? Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Brian. Thank you, Mario. Thank you very much. I'm just the head of a team, but that's all, and they're great. So it is now the time when I will have the privilege to introduce our honoree, Mr. Isidro Fainé, and the chance to praise all his many accomplishments and deliver to him our Business Leader of the Year award. But first, I understand that we have a video about CaixaBank and the accomplishments of the institution under the leadership of Mr. Fainé. So, please.
CaixaBank is a comprehensive financial group comprising a banking business, insurance activities, and investments in international banks. It is the leading bank in Spain and one of the largest banks in the Eurozone in terms of market capitalization. CaixaBank is a member of the La Caixa Group and, like its majority shareholder, is committed to the communities it serves. CaixaBank pledges to create value for its shareholders while making decisive contributions to society at large. CaixaBank stands apart for its financial strength, built by a tradition of prudent risk management, and for its ability to generate recurring income, drawing from its enormous potential for both business and service. It is Spain's leader in individual banking, operating the largest network of branches and ATMs. CaixaBank enjoys a widespread customer base as well. 1 out of every 4 residents in Spain is a customer. Its insurance group, the Vida Caixa Group, is at the forefront of the Spanish life insurance and pensions market. CaixaBank has a major presence worldwide, with international branches and representative offices in key parts of the globe. CaixaBank also holds stakes in the capital of several banking institutions operating in the international arena. Strategic partnership agreements are signed with these entities to further the business. With a view to diversifying its revenue streams, CaixaBank has invested in the capital of the top companies in certain sectors, with a high level of internationalization and scope for growth and value creation. CaixaBank's vision is geared towards a universal banking model, providing high-quality, personalized, and innovative services tailored to customers' needs. Under the La Caixa brand, the institution pursues intense commercial operations through its extensive branch network, supported by a leading multi-channel distribution system. CaixaBank is at the forefront of individual banking in Spain, with a steadily increasing market share. It currently holds one of the top 3 positions in the rankings for all products and services. Underpinned by this leadership, the strategic goal is to consolidate leading positions in other segments as well. With this aim in mind, the institution has boosted its business specialization through on-customer segmentation and focusing its business operations with a view to providing each segment with its own customized value services. Since the La Caixa Group was first founded over 100 years ago, it has been a beacon in its industry for its strong social commitment and its firm vocation to working for the general interest. It does so through both its financial activity, now entrusted to CaixaBank, and through the La Caixa Foundation, which both funds and carries out social, educational, cultural, and scientific activities. The success of the La Caixa Group's model is based on its allegiance to three values, which serve as the focal points for the entire organization and are the keys to its management approach. Leadership, based on commitment, integrity, professionalism, and teamwork. Trust, of both customers and society alike, underpinned by service and unwavering quality. Social commitment, the ultimate goal for our institution. Yesterday, today, and forever.
Very impressive, wasn't it? This is the fourth gala dinner I have presided over since I was appointed chairman of the board of the Spain-US Chamber of Commerce. And I have enjoyed every one of them immensely. Tonight's gala, however, is very dear and special to me. Please allow me to share with you a personal story, or perhaps more precisely a family story, which is uniquely related to this evening's event. I never met my grandfather, as he passed away before I was born. But my father often talked about what a wise and intelligent man he was. The Spanish Civil War deprived my grandfather from completing his grade school education. And indirectly, the war was also the reason why my father Gustavo and my two uncles Valentin and Jesus never made it to university either. Like most Spanish citizens, the hardships of post-Civil War in Spain squashed many opportunities, including access to education. In light of those limitations, in the war's aftermath, my grandfather advised his three sons to take a qualifying exam to join a relatively small regional savings bank in Barcelona, popularly known as La Caixa. So following his advice, my uncles and my father took the test in successive years and received the highest scores on the respective exams. My father joined La Caixa at the age of 16 in 1946. And like my two uncles, he retired 44 years later after a continuous employment with the bank, a reflection of loyalty and gratitude that is all too uncommon these days. My father and uncles had very successful careers at La Caixa, rising to high levels executive positions at the institution. My own brother and one of my cousins are currently executives at La Caixa as well. As you can imagine, La Caixa has been a very important and meaningful part of my life. Through my father, who is now 82 years old, I learned of the values of La Caixa. Values of hard work, austerity, prudence, generosity, integrity, respect, and fairness. My father's lessons and these values shaped my life and the man that I am today. So I could not be more pleased and privileged to be presiding over this gala dinner that honors the chairman of an organization that stands as a beacon of the best that can be found in business, and that means so much to me and my family. But tonight, that beacon shines directly onto Isidre Fainé, a man of so many accomplishments that one evening alone cannot contain them. Allow me, however, to share with you just a few of those accomplishments. And it's quite a long list. Mr. Fainé holds a PhD in economics from the University of Barcelona and a senior management program degree in business administration from Harvard University. He holds another diploma in senior management from IESE Business School and is a tenured member of the Royal Academy of Doctors. He is also the chairman of CaixaBank, of La Caixa Foundation, as well as of Criteria Caixa Holding, which manages the real estate and the industrial investments for the group. Mr. Fainé is also the chairman of the Association of Spanish Savings Bank, known as SECA, the vice chairman of the European Savings Bank Group, chairman of the Spanish Confederation of Directors and Executives of Círculo Financiero, and of the Spanish chapter of the Club of Rome. Additionally, if that wasn't enough, he's the vice chairman of Telefónica, of Repsol, of Abertis, and of Aguas de Barcelona, and a board member of Banco BP and of the Bank of East Asia. Under his leadership, CaixaBank has weathered financial storms and adapted to great challenging economic and political environments. It has become the leading retail bank in Spain with over 13 million customers, a business volume well in excess of 500 billion euros, and customer funds of almost 300 billion euros. I hope these numbers match the presentation because I didn't double check, but we have enough lawyers in the audience to do that for me. La Caixa, which is CaixaBank's principal shareholder, has become the largest financial and industrial group in Spain with significant holdings in diverse industries including banking, finance, insurance, pensions, investment funds, real estate, telecommunications, oil and gas, water supply, and highway operation. Today, La Caixa Group is one of the most admired financial and industrial groups in the world. But it is also an organization that is deeply invested in the communities in which it operates. Since its humble beginnings, La Caixa has been committed to improving the lives of ordinary people and making social responsibility one of its fundamental operating tenets. Through its outreach, La Caixa Foundation has contributed to the health and education of hundreds of thousands, perhaps millions, of people in Spain for over a century. Impressively, La Caixa devotes 25% of the profits it generates in a given country, region, or city to fund social, education, culture, or scientific projects in such community, 25%. This commitment has not changed even during these very difficult times. With an annual budget of 500 million euros, La Caixa has become one of the largest foundations in the world. La Caixa's success would not have been possible without Mr. Fainé's expansive vision and decisive leadership. Vision and leadership that has been based on the values I mentioned earlier: hard work, austerity, prudence, generosity, integrity, respect, and fairness. Since I started this introduction with a story, allow me to conclude my presentation with an anecdote that speaks to the character of our honoree. Mr. Fainé claims he remembers this story, but maybe he's a very courteous man, but not sure. Some years ago, perhaps a decade or more, I happened to be sitting next to Mr. Fainé on a shuttle flight between Barcelona and Madrid. After gathering some courage, I introduced myself to him and enjoyed a very pleasant talk for the duration of our flight. When we arrived in Madrid, Mr. Fainé invited me to ride with him into the city in his chauffeur-driven car. We first reached his destination before driving on to my hotel. When Mr. Fainé got off the car, his words of farewell were, "If you ever need anything from me, call me, and if I need anything from you, I will call you." Deeds speak more than words. I realized then that I had had the privilege of sharing an hour with a leader of a kind, a man with formidable influence and professional success, yet a generous, respectful, humble, and kind man, and certainly pragmatic. Senor Fainé, on behalf of the Board of Directors of the Spain-US Chamber of Commerce, I thank you for sharing this evening with us and for accepting our 2012 Business Leader of the Year Award. At this time, I would like to invite to the stage Ms. Petra Mateos, former chairman of Spanish satellite giant Hispasat, and our 2010 Business Leader of the Year honoree. Petra? And Mr. Fainé, Senor Fainé, a la allow me to say something in Catalan. ¿Tenemos el trofeo? Okay. Benvingut. I think we should have a trophy or somewhere. I think we're waiting for the trophy, but, or the award. Okay? No, está bien, sí. Mr. Fainé claims he remembers the anecdote, but yeah, it was a true anecdote. It was 15 years ago, maybe, or 12 years ago. That only would show our age, but we do have a real trophy, an award every year, don't take me wrong. In fact, I think we can use the $10,000 check to just pass it on. I see. Okay, so we're going to be moving to the next. Mr. Fainé will speak to us and we'll give the award at the end of the evening. Thank you.
Your Excellency, the United States Ambassador to Spain, Mr. Alan Solomon, the Honorable General Consul of Spain in New York, Mr. Juan Ramones Martinez Salazar, dear Chairman, Javier Ruiz, and distinguished members of the Spain-US Chamber of Commerce, authorities, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. I feel very compelled to say that it is a great honor and a privilege for me to be here tonight among so many good friends, respected colleagues, and distinguished dignitaries. I want to take this opportunity to express my solidarity with those who bore the brunt of Sunday's terrible havoc. I am sure this country and its citizens will bounce back with renewed energy. First of all, I would like to say I am fully aware that many of you present here tonight have done much more than me to deserve the Business Leader of the Year award. Let me begin by thanking you for this great distinction on behalf of myself, my family, and the over 30,000 employees of the La Caixa Group, without whom I would not be here tonight. Furthermore, I wish to recognize all the other institutions and companies with their respective employees, to which I also devote part of my professional time. Moreover, I would like to thank the Spain-US Chamber of Commerce for the invaluable role it plays in fostering business relations between Spain and the United States of America. This initiative represents, both at the personal and professional level, the greatest encouragement for us to strengthen our commitment of service. So once again, thank you so much for your continued support and for your recognition by being present at this dinner tonight. Before moving forward, and as chairman of La Caixa, I feel I should explain to you what our group stands and what our main activities are. To begin with, I wish to call your attention to the special characteristics of our institutions, which was founded in 1904. Its original aim was to promote savings, pension plans, and social coverage for citizens. La Caixa was born in an extremely difficult decade for Spain, when unemployment was high, due to the bankruptcy of many businesses, and caused great social upheaval with strikes, demonstrations, and looting. At this point, I would like to make reference to the three main pillars of the La Caixa Group. First, our financial activity. We develop our financial activities through CaixaBank, where we consider financial inclusion as one of our main goals. It's a special distinction of La Caixa. In this sense, we are the largest retail bank in Spain, with 350 billion euros in assets, over 30 million customers, and 6,000 branches offices. We provide a wide range of financial products and services for families and small and medium-sized enterprises. We are the market leader in retail and commercial banking in Spain, with a market share of 21% in individual customers and 34% in SMEs. We are the grassroots of our society. Furthermore, CaixaBank is a European leader online banking with 32% market share in Spain. We are also very proud to say that Euromoney magazine has recognized CaixaBank as the best bank in Spain. What is more, CaixaBank was all named the world's most innovative bank at the Global Banking Awards organized by the Bank Administration Institute. Second, our entrepreneurial business is carried out through Criteria Caixa Holding. We make long-term investments in top-tier companies such as the telecommunication operator Telefónica, the energy companies Repsol in oil, and Gas Natural Fenosa in gas and electricity, the infrastructure group Abertis in highways, satellites, and airports. These companies are quoted on the Madrid stock market. Our total investment stands at around 16 billion euros. In other words, we hold major stake in these corporations to influence their decision-making processes, with the aim of promoting our country, creating wealth and jobs. Last but not least, our third pillar is our social activity. On average, we invest 25% of our profits in the country, region, or city in which we carry out our activities. Our annual budget for each of the last 5 years has been 500 million euros. We rank as the second largest private foundation in Europe and the 5th in the world. 2/3 of this budget is devoted to social programs for the young, the elderly, the disabled, the unemployed, and the terminally ill. The remaining third is assigned to education, scientific research, culture, and environmental projects. Our foundation is actively involved in many socio-economic development programs in 30 countries around the world. Some 20 years ago, I prepared a dissertation for the Spanish Royal Academy of Economic Science. The thesis was about leadership and economic progress. The concept of leadership is universal in time and space. It was present in the most ancient civilizations, and today it prevails in the most remote areas of our planet. Even the classic philosophers wrote about leadership, and since then it has been widely used by writers. For my part, I focus on the main qualities of a leader, which I broke down as follows: justice and good judgment, wisdom and counsel, sagacity and caution, courage, and action. Then I tried to put a human face on those qualities. I could not find them in a physical person, but I happened to recognize such attributes in the protagonist of the epic classic Greek book, the Iliad by Homer. So I found that Agamemnon brings to light the issue of justice and good judgment. Justice and good judgment must be extended equally to everyone. Trust is gained if you have a special sensitivity towards the feelings of others in your organization. They trust you will make the right decision at the right time and for the right reasons, while looking out for the best interest of everyone concerned. Nestor portrayed the qualities of wisdom and counsel. Through dialogue, constructive debate, the change of experience, knowledge and reflections, we come to know more about ourselves, our organization, our strength, and our limitations. If we are conscious of our limitations, and I have a lot of experience, and are close to our colleagues and managers, we will be able to give them good and useful advice. At the same time, I could see that Ulysses embodied sagacity and caution. In today's context, Ulysses would surely take the current economic crisis as an opportunity and a challenge to scan the horizon calmly, to seek out new opportunities, to approach them prudently, and to make decisions with caution only when confidence of success is clear. Finally, it is Achilles who exemplifies courage and action. Achilles reminds that, in spite of difficulties, triumph awaits those who stand firm to the very end. As we all know, harsh reality often tests the strength and determination of the more resilient managers. However, if a leader shows his resolve and acts according to the attributes I have just mentioned, then one can understand the words of the Greek poet Euripides, who wrote, 10 soldiers wisely led will beat 100 without a head. But certainly, the world today has changed greatly with globalization. In particular, over the last few decades, we have been experiencing profound changes in society due to the complexity of the environment. This new situation, in turn, requires a new quality of leadership, one that I call leadership without borders. This new style of leadership must start by understanding an increasingly more complex and interdependent world. And because of that, today's leaders are obliged to stand and fight. Not only their own adversities, but even more beyond their borders. They are also obliged to understand, promote, and leverage knowledge as a key factor for competitiveness in the modern enterprise. In a globalized world, this knowledge must be identified and properly gathered, whether by attracting talent or by preserving it where it exists as a means to continually promote new ideas, new trends, and new lifestyles. And as we all know, knowledge along with innovation, must always be present. In new organizational structures, in new models of management, in products, processes, and distribution channels, and of course, in new ways to motivate people, if we do that, then some of the most fruitful innovations will be created. Through demand itself, through contact with the customer, through experience, and through learning day by day. But we must be convinced that we can do it. However, to cope with these current complexities of society and still be successful as a professional, as a manager, as an entrepreneur, and as a corporate leader, more is needed. So the pragmatic sense of the entrepreneur is also key, combined with the inner strength and conviction of a leader without borders, who is totally committed to fighting adversity and going beyond frontiers in search of new business and related activities. I am also speaking of a practical leader, with the ability to stay ahead of trends combined with a proactive attitude for identifying new markets and new opportunities. Furthermore, managers and directors cannot let themselves be overcome with the frustration and pessimism of the economic crisis. Neither the complexity of the situation, nor the severity of the moment, nor the fragility of some economies can prevent us from correctly envisioning the competitive advantage we have at our disposal. And right now, more than ever before, we must hold on to our own vision, and that means stepping back for a moment from the adversities without ignoring them, examining, reconsidering, and redirecting our strategy, conducting in-depth analysis of our roots and highlighting our strengths as a company, but also today as a country. Speaking about countries, I would like to use this occasion to express my firm conviction that Spain will soon recover from its current economic problems, thanks to the many strengths and assets we possess. The upward trend of the Spanish sports sector, which gives us credibility. Our privileged geographical position will represent a great opportunity. Our valuable fabric of human and entrepreneurial capital, which is powerful and diverse. Our positioning in high-tech industries, which is a known fact. Our significant recovery in terms of competitiveness, as the latest statistics show. The correction of our foreign trade balance deficit, which will soon be completed. The tough bank restructuring underway, which is being finalized. And the measures adopted to reduce our public deficit, which are well underway. In short, these are the reasons we know Spain will once again become a major player in the world economic sphere, having learned crucial lessons that will make us a better country in the years to come. For a country as well as for an enterprise, it is essential to know how to combine the best managerial attributes, being aware of our strengths and weaknesses at all times, while keeping a keen eye out for the many opportunities we will inevitably find if we are willing to fight for them. Slowly but surely, step by step. So far, I have spoken about leadership from a cross-border and international perspective, knowledge and innovation, sound, pragmatic and proactive management, strength, resilience, and self-reflection, and I have also addressed the values embodied in Homer's Iliad. They remind us of the paramount importance of values. We should always be with trust, commitment, integrity, work ethic, loyalty, and keeping one's word. Those are precisely what will lead us to build a freer, more dynamic, and fairer society. Throughout my life, I have always been highly motivated by management and leadership as mechanism to improve ourselves in the various aspects of our lives and actions. Now, to conclude, I have tried to summarize the most remarkable features of modern leadership, the ones embodied in the concept of a leader without borders. And I am moved to say that during my speech, I have felt extremely at ease with all of you because we agree about what makes a leader. And all of you here tonight have provided excellent example of this. I distinguish many of you before the meeting because you know how to live with uncertainty. You know where opportunities lie. You know how to motivate people, enabling them to achieve their goals. You know how to take responsibility to the very end. You know how not to compromise and not to settle for anything short of excellence. I feel truly honored to be part of the same team that shares the profound conviction that our enterprises, our institutions, our cities, and even our countries will be better places if we act as true leaders, leaders without borders, committed to achieving a better world today and a more prosperous and promising one for tomorrow. Not just for ourselves, but for our children, for our grandchildren, and for many new generations to come. Thank you, my good friends. Thank you, one and all, for honoring me with your presence on what is a truly special occasion for me. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Fainé. Thank you, Mr. Fainé. This was an extremely inspiring speech, and I think it should be a motivational speech or a speech for that we should be shown in every single business school. As you can see, this hotel is very efficient because when we told them we had forgotten our, to produce a business, an award, they ran into Macy's and came back in 20 minutes with this award. But now seriously, sorry for the disconnect, and here's the award, and please join me with a big round of applause to our honoree, Mr. Isidro Fainé. So I think our hostess or presenter is back, and she will probably tell you that there's some champagne coming up, so don't go away. Please. Thank you.
Yes, please do continue to enjoy the evening. I hope you all enjoyed thus far. Thank you all for your kind support and attendance, and we all wish you happy holidays and the best in the new year.